Good morning. Hi, everybody. It's Diana again. I wanted to come on here today, talk to you about the voice of God. There's a lot of people who are struggling to even believe that God does talk to us. And I'm not talking about just Him dropping something in our spirit where we just know something. We had a strong feeling, or we intuitively received something. But I'm talking about an audible voice like mine is right now. And so I'm going to share a couple of stories with you, things that really happened. And hopefully this will help you to understand that God does talk to His children, and that He wants to talk to you. In fact, He's already speaking to you. But it may or may not be an audible voice. If you don't know it's God's voice or His angel, well, this is the place to learn. As I shared with you in a previous video, I teach people how to have a relationship with God, how to draw close in an intimate, loving, nourishing relationship. Because see, you need to be nourished. You live in a world that is full of, there's good here, but there's also evil. And you have an enemy to you. He's your enemy. Satan, that's his name. He's your enemy and he hates you. Simply because he hates God. And he can't destroy God, so he'll try to destroy you. Also, given the fact that God is so in love with you and has put you higher than anything else, even than angels. You're more important than angels to God. He made you in His image. You're the only thing that has been created, or the only person who's been created in His image. So let me not go too far, because I can go way out on that. I want to talk to you about hearing God. And I'll start by telling you when I first heard God, and never trying to hear God. Didn't think that I would hear God. Didn't even know that God speaks to people in an audible voice. I was in a church. This was 1990. This was 1993. I was going to church. I was going through a bad time. I was in a relationship with my son's father, one of my son's fathers, and he had promised that we were getting married. We were talking about getting married. And I had started going to church with his mother. I was going to this little church in a place called Coatesville, Pennsylvania. And, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that he wasn't serious, that he was just talking, just to be talking to me and just misleading me. And it was terrible. And as I saw our relationship crumble, falling apart by things he was doing, he wasn't coming to bed at night. He would sleep downstairs all night, and just the things behaviors. I ran to the church. I had started going every Sunday. He had promised to go with me, but he never did. That's the church he grew up in. So I went there one day, just brokenhearted, distraught. In the middle of the week, the church was open. I went in and I was sitting there, and there was a man who came out. The church was empty, it was dark, but I was sitting in there, and he asked me, could he help me? And I told him, what was going on. But I got saved there. Shortly thereafter, after I got the pastor involved, my relationship got broken up at church. The thing that I was trying to hold on to so hard for dear life. I mean, I was desperate, y'all. to hold on to this relationship. I thought the pastor would help me. Quite to the contrary. He was significant in helping break up my relationship in a conversation between me, my son's father, and the pastor. And he, asked the pastor, told him, don't you have something you want to tell her? And he struggled to tell me, but he told me, I need space. I want you to go back to your apartment in Manhattan. One day he threw me out with a 9-month-old baby that I just had by him. And no advance notice. He told me I couldn't. I asked, can I have a week? No, you got to go now. So I left with my little Ford Tempo and the car packed up with everything in it. So much so that I could barely see out and my 9-month-old baby back to my apartment in Manhattan. I was in that apartment. I'd gotten to a place I was depressed. I wouldn't comb my hair. Just people that saw me said, what happened to you? You had such life and such laughter and joy in your life. What happened? And I told everybody that would listen to me about what happened with this guy and, and how I was going to get back with him. Still desperate, y'all. So desperate that I went to a psychic. I knew that psychics wasn't of God. I mean, I didn't grow up in the church. Didn't have no training per se. But I started going to psychic because I wanted somebody to tell me. Lost $10,000. I was swindled out of $10,000 by her. Just want to say that to you. So stay away from psychics. When I got to Manhattan, I stayed in my house, 3 months, just reaching out to God. I had no one else to reach to. All my friends that knew me then was sick of me talking about this man. And some of them told me, you got to move on. I didn't listen to them. So I stayed in my house and I started reaching out to God. And I had my arms up in the air. And one day as I went to pull my arm down, this left arm here, a light circled this arm, a bright light. And I that's how I reacted, because I thought, oh my God, I cracked up. There was no light in this room at all. So how am I seeing this bright light come around my arm? I had been praying and begging God for the last 90 days to help me to get back with this guy. I made all kinds of promises to him. So this light comes around there, and simultaneously I hear a voice that says, you will have another chance. I'll never forget those words, because those are the first words that I know of, that I could say I know that was God. Immediately though, at the same time, peace came across me. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel worried. I was able to smile. I felt peace in my spirit. And I got up, wiped my face. But I said to myself right before that, I'm not crazy. I know what day this is. I know where I'm at. I know who I am. Because at first I thought I cracked up. That was it. I had a nervous breakdown. But I didn't have a nervous breakdown. God came. He heard my cries. He heard my prayers. He showed up. And all he said to me is, you'll have another chance. In an audible voice, just as calm. From that day to this day, I still hear God. This day, I hear God every day, because I have committed my life to him since then. I have gone on assignments where he sends me. Whatever he tells me to do, that's what I do. I know who I am. He told me he wanted me to be a pastor and pastor a church. I did that for 20 years. And he has continuously, expanded my life, grown me. He's given me wisdom. He's given me knowledge. He's allowed me. He sent me to help people. And every time I go finish an assignment, he catapults me into something else. So, can you hear the voice of God? Yes, you can. But you have to seek him. The Bible says, seek him while he may be found. That's our the commandment is we're supposed to seek the Lord with all our heart, with all our soul. And while, the world in their analogy is that if you hear God, you're crazy, that is so far from the truth. I'm not crazy. I've written 3 books. I got a team. I got family. I got friends. People will tell you that I think that I'm pretty smart, and somewhat intelligent, simply because the Lord has taught me, trained me. I mean, I'm educated. I got an MBA and maybe 11 credits away from a master's in clinical psychology, a doctorate in divinity. But that paper is not the big deal to me. The biggest and the greatest thing in my life is the Most High God. That without him, I wouldn't be anything. Because I was crushed back then in 1993. And I shudder to think where I would be today. So, if you want to hear God, you can. But you need to, for those of you who don't have a relationship with him, you have to first start there. You have to start with inviting him into your life and to be your Lord and Savior. And once that happens, start talking on a regular basis, every day. Cast your cares on him. The Bible says, cast your cares upon him, for he cares for you. Do that. Start telling him about the things that are pressing on your life. Whether it be your life, your marriage, your husband, your children. It's our responsibility to bring our children, to train our children. When I had a church, I brought my children and they had to come to church. Up until they was 18 years old, it was mandated for them to come to church. And I'm going to tell you, it paid off. Because my daughter, who doesn't hear God's voice now, has a powerful relationship with him. One that I didn't even know about until recently when God told me to start praying with her. And when I started praying with her, I could not believe the prayer that was coming out of her mouth. And how long. I mean, I was there for an hour and she would pray and thoroughly pray for not only her city she was living in, all the young people who are dying in Waterbury. She's not in Waterbury no more. She's in Wallingford, Connecticut. But for all the people who were dying in Waterbury, Connecticut, for all the broken souls, all of those that are drug addicted, all of the car accident, there's a curse on the city called Waterbury, Connecticut. Now, God said he's going to redeem that city, but it's been going on a long time. But let me go back to my daughter, because I can get off on that. Before this happened with my daughter, some years back, I taught my children about tithing. When you tithe, you are giving God the portion of your finances that is his, that belong to him. The Bible says it's God who gives us the power to get wealth. So if you have a job, if you are on Social Security, if you are on public assistance, no matter how you get your income, it was God who gave you the ability, the power to get that. So 10% of it belongs to him. The other 90 is yours. Just think of it. He gives you 100% of this. So the other 10% you give to God. And when I say you give to God, I mean you give it to the church, the house of God, or the ministry that God tells you to give it to. You go to him and ask him where that is. But giving to I'm not saying that you can't give to a charity. Yes, you can give to charities, but not the tithe. The tithe doesn't go to a charity. The charity is not a Christian ministry. That's not the place that God deems for your money to go. But you need to find that out. So that would be part of your conversation with God is to God, I want to tithe. How do I give that 10%? So I told my daughter about tithing. And taught the church about tithing. We're tithers. And this is part of how we've been so blessed. But that's for another video. So my daughter was working in a fast food restaurant at the time, Wendy's. And I told her, you need to start paying your tithes. So she sent it. She didn't go to church. Still hasn't all these years. But she asked the Lord, and the Lord, she gives her tithe to this ministry. Doesn't matter if it's $2, $3, whatever 10% of whatever your income is. That's what it is. That's the tithe. Well, you need to read about it so you can understand what the tithe is. So when I told it to her, she said, okay, Mom, I don't know. She must have been maybe 20, she was in her 20s, 23. So she took the 10% out of her paycheck and put it on the side. Now, let me tell you what happened to my daughter. And she will tell this story to you. Something bit her on her lip, and her lip swelled up real big and was in pain. And she called me and said, Mom, please pray. This pain is hurting. She went to the hospital. They gave her something, didn't work, didn't take it down. And she was suffering. And after 3 days of the pain, she was begging. She said, God, I can't take this no more. She called me, Mom, I can't take this no more. Please, please ask God to stop this. And the Lord spoke to me while I was on the phone and said to ask her. This is what he said. This is his words. Ask her, does she have something of mine? So I said, I was thinking, she got something of his? So I said, Kalila, that's her name. Kalila, do you have something of God's? He said, you have something of his. She said, no, I wouldn't know what that is. And then he dropped it in my spirit. He put me into remembrance, the tithe. I said, did you mail that tithe out? She said, no, Ma, I've been waiting for the address, for you to give me the address. I got it in my dresser drawer. So I said, Kalila, go get that tithe and go take it to the mailbox now. Now, it had snowed so much. Ground was full of snow. In pain, she said, I'll take it right now. She put her clothes on, went down to the mailbox, dropped it in there. I'd given her the address. She dropped it in there. She came back and said, Mom, from the moment I put it in the mailbox, the pain stopped. Now, I never heard a story like this before. But I'm not surprised. I hear about miracles all day long with God. When you walk with God by faith, this is what happens. You experience miracles like you will not believe. So she came back, she told me my mouth stopped hurting. And now it's starting to go down. It's going down a little bit. By later that day, it was completely back to normal. I'm telling you, this is real. That convinced my daughter from that day to this one, how the power of God and the power of the tithe. She's been tithing faithfully since that day. That's over 10 years now. She's 35 now. She's turned 35 in June. So, God's voice, he spoke to me. Here's another story. I'm not going to keep you too much longer because I got so much to give you. And I'm going to, my plan is to record every day. And for things that happen, Please, by the way, keep praying for the people in here. I heard of what I call, it's not horrific, but it's not something I would want to encounter. One of the ladies that we met here, she just 2 days ago, she just told us she had to leave. Moffitt told her that the Moffitt Cancer Center, she can't stay here at this hotel no more because they pay for it. That she would need to go to what's called Hope House. That's a place that they have on their campus. But the reason why she didn't want to go is she said because there's 40 people staying there, and there's one, it's like communal, I think that's the word, where they have one kitchen and everybody has to use that kitchen. And she just doesn't feel that that's the place for her. She feels like she's not going to be comfortable there. And listen, it's enough to have to struggle with, she has throat cancer, by the way, to struggle with all that she's, going through. She was finding it very difficult to swallow her food that she was eating downstairs the other day. I'm telling you, it's what I have seen in here about what all people go through when they have cancer, and then the treatments, what they go through from the treatments. It's horrible. Please pray. Please. I implore you to pray for these people, pray for their minds, pray for them to have the strength to go through, pray that this cancer center would treat them in the way that they need to. Before that lady came to that same lady I'm talking about with the throat cancer came to this hotel, before she came here, she was sent by Moffitt to another hotel, the extended stay hotel. Now, I've never been in none of those hotels. She said they were selling drugs in there, using drugs in there. It was horrible. So, pray for Moffitt that they would not send, really look at the places that they're sending these people to and paying for them to go to. The people are going where Moffitt is sending. They're entrusting them to send them to a place that's decent, that they can be protected, that'll be comfortable for them while they're going through this treatment that they have to go to. It's enough of all they're dealing with, not only while they're here going through the treatment. Some of these treatments are like 10 and 12 hours. They're in the hospital taking this medicine all day long. Pray for them. They need your prayer like ever before, like never before. Please pray for them. So, that's the story about my daughter. Oh God, I forgot the story I was going to tell you now. There was another story. Oh, I got it. One of the women on my team, you'll meet her. Her name is Evora. When I first met her, she came to me and she wanted me to help her with her son who wouldn't get a job. He was like in his 20s, and he wouldn't get a job. And I told her what she needed to do. She needed to go to God. I said, you need to take this situation to God. Ask God to make your son a man. Just because a young man, a male is 21 years old don't mean he's a man. And I know a lot of y'all know that, Ask God to make him a man, because he's the one that made a man in the first place. He's the only one with a formula on how to make a man. A male, a man. Okay. So then I told her, what is it that you want? Because I discerned in my spirit that she was after something too. She said, I want to do what you're doing. I told her I'm not surprised. Because when God brings people to you, it's because usually he has a call on them. He wants to use them. They're seeking him, and he's trying to take them to the next level, or, establish a rapport with them, if you will, and lead them into all truth and righteousness. That's the only place you're going to find all truth and righteousness, by the way. So, I told her, I said, would you go with me up into the Poconos? I was living in New York City. I want to go into a cabin and would you go with me? She said, sure. I said, for the weekend. I know you work. We'll go on over the weekend. So I drove. I told her I'll drive up. And we drove up and she went with me. And I said, God told me to bring you up here. That's why I asked you, did you want to go? So she was excited. She was nervous too because she didn't know what to expect, but neither did I. I didn't know either. So we rent this cabin in a place called Naomi Village, which I don't think is open anymore, but you certainly can look it up that Naomi Village did exist. And we get there, and I had been talking to God. He told me he was going to buy me a house, but I didn't know where to move. I didn't know where I wanted to move. I just wanted a house. So she had her bedroom, I had my bedroom. So we go to bed, and I say to her, I say to God, the whole time the next morning, I'm laying on the floor praying, and I'm asking God, in my head, I'm talking to God, because she's close, her room's close to me, so I don't want to disturb her by having these, loud conversations or talking out. So I asked, Lord, where should I move, God? The moment I asked him, he said to me, Connecticut. And I said, Connecticut. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Connecticut, it's colder than New York. I wanted to go where it was hot, not cold. So I didn't say nothing. I just said, okay. And I got up, went out, put the fireplace on in this cabin. It was so cozy. She comes out about 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, and she sits down and she begins to tell me how she had brought a knife with her, because she was now we up in this kind of woods area. And she said, I put the knife under my head, under the pillow at night, in case anybody came up through these windows, I could defend myself. She said, I woke up, the knife was gone, and I freaked out. Found the knife down by my feet. I said, didn't God tell you? I said, remember, God told me when we left that he was going to make you a new woman. So we sat there and we talked for a while, and I said, listen, I want you to ask God something. I said, God just told me that he wanted me to move to a certain state. I want you to ask him. She looked at me like, what? I don't know how to ask God nothing. I've never heard his voice. She said, I don't know how to do this. I said, just ask. Just ask him. And I'm going to tell you, if he tells you the place that he told me, I'm going to scream. That's what I told her. So she said, oh, I don't know how to do this. You're making my stomach hurt. She always would say that very cutely when she would, didn't want to do nothing, playing around. So I said, just ask him. You don't even have to ask it out loud. Just ask him in your head. She asked him, and she said, he said, Connecticut. I screamed. And you know what he said to me? Did you think I couldn't do that? He's got jokes too. Nevertheless, that's my last story. It's 28 minutes. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I want you to know that you can hear God, but you got to start to fellowship with him. And I mean on a regular basis. And in faith, be waiting for him to respond. Tell him, God, I'd like to hear your voice. It may take a while. Some of you, it may be quickly. It depends on your level of relationship right now, if you have one at all with him. God bless you. You know what? I'm going to ask you to not only give me a thumbs up, but to subscribe. You know why? Because I'm starting a blog. I'm going to start writing and putting information on the blog that you can use. The how-tos, how to pray effectively, how to hear God's voice, and a bunch of other things that I got to share with you. And if you subscribe, I will, I'll be putting down my blog that I'm creating now. And it's actually up. I just need to fine tune it. And we'll take it from there. God bless you. I hope you have a fantastic day. Until next time. Bye.